I love the One Piece trading card game, and I love to spend money on this game efficiently. Buying singles for your deck has always been the most cost-effective way of building a deck, but in this challenge, we throw that all away. Each week, I use a budget of $30 to open sealed product in the hopes of adding new cards to our deck. But since we can only play cards in our color, any cards we can't use, we can trade away. And there are additional buffs locked behind certain challenges. Join me in my journey as I rise up to become the King of the Pirates. You're watching One Piece from Scratch. Welcome back, Pirates, to another exciting episode of One Piece from Scratch. I've got a lot of exciting news to share today, so let's just hop into some announcements. First, we have another series and channel milestone of finally reaching 500 subscribers. It blows me away that we've built such a large community with a pretty good subscriber watch percentage, all things considered, and I'm incredibly blessed to be able to create content that you all enjoy and hopefully continue to deliver on that. With that, I do get access to a few new features on the back end, and if I end up doing anything with those, I will let you know, of course. That also means that we can finally finish this bounty and claim the prize of getting another alt art upgrade. I won't be doing that in this episode since I already recorded all the footage for that, but definitely the next time we play Constructed. Speaking of playing Constructed versus Sealed, the next episode, and potentially the one after, depending on how stuff goes, will be in the pre-release format. By the time this episode releases, we'll be in pre-release weekend, and we'll have just started the OP10 format, and I am super excited. Some new leaders enter the fray, and some older ones become relevant again, so I am super excited to see how I'll be able to adapt to this new format and push our Black Smoker strategy to its limit. And of course, by the time this episode releases, the ban list will have dropped, so hopefully that will shake up the meta. And I am recording and editing this a fair bit earlier than the ban list reveal, so hopefully our deck makes it out safe and positions our strategy to be a new top tier contender. But with all that out of the way, let's finally move on to the opening. Alright gamers, we have a fresh box of set 7. So why are we coming into set 7? I made a little bit of a cut here so it would be easier to get out of the box. But we are mainly looking for OP07 leader Lucci. Now, maybe it's like a personal coat, but I don't think it's going to be hit very hard, if any, on the upcoming ban list. So, yeah, I feel like black is becoming a little bit less of a problem, especially with how power creep is going. Hopefully that means the leader Lucci is going to be safe. But yeah, also just like variety on the channel. So anyways, we have a rolling budget of 50 cents. We're probably not even going to touch that. As you saw, we did grab 6 packs, and at $4.50 a pack, that is going to cost us $27, pushing $3 into our next episode. So yeah, main thing we're looking for is the leader Lucci. If we can get the alt art for that, that would be awesome as well. Outside of that, I haven't opened this series. I haven't opened this set in a really long time, so I'm kind of curious to myself as well what else is in here. So let's just hop right into it. And yeah, not seeing the Dawn in the back is a little bit sad. I do miss PRB. Speaking of PRB, we will be opening the rest of that box soon enough, but we are just taking a little bit of a detour. So we got Fuza, Manda, Jinbei, Papag, Koala, I Request Our Help, Morgan's, Crocodile, more pizza, Jewelry Bonnie Leader. I honestly forgot that this was in here, but PRB does have a lot of good stuff for Jewelry Bonnie, so maybe we can start to make a Bonnie list. That would be kind of interesting. We have the Sengoku Searcher, so I'd imagine by now if you're playing Doflamingo, you probably have your set of Sengokus, but in case someone doesn't, we might be able to trade that off. And we have Lucy. I have been seeing that card pop up. I haven't read it in a while, but I remember it being a menace in the set 7 pre-release. So hopefully that ends up being, wow, opening is hard. Hopefully that ends up being something we can throw into like an off meta deck. So we have Gekko Moria, Jinbei, Buckin, Blue Jam, Snake Dance, Koala, Adeline, Slave Arrow, Mr. Tanaka, Foxy Leader. So we have 2 leaders from this set already, not the one we're looking for though. Monkey D. Luffy, and Outlook 3. Looking a little bit dry, but we're only 2 packs in. Hopefully we'll have something exciting in this week's episode. Coming into pack 3, we have Manda, Stary, Capote, Usopp, Tony Chopper, Boa Sandersonia, Korobu, Keep Out, Roronoa Zoro, Joseph, Otama, very good card by the way, and Rob Lucci, not the Lucci we're looking for. Yeah, so if we're gonna want a Lucci in that last slot, we want it to have a red back. An alt art leader, that would be nice. That would be nice. Ooh, come on. Okay, so coming into pack number 4. Wow, we're already going through pretty fast. We have Reiju, Porkami, Boa Marigold, Iron Body, Pickles, Egghead, Morgan, Gloriosa, Big Bun, Dragon Breath, Baccarat, please something, please!
You say daddy's home, home for me.
Yo! Okay, let's recollect. This is probably one of the better cards we could have gotten. If memory serves me correct, I'm pretty sure this is like floating around $40. So I am definitely happy for this to take up one of our alt art secret rare slots. Honestly, I think I would have been really salty, but like kind of bittersweet if we got the Sabo, because it's a black card we could use tech in at some point. But a secret rare 10 cost ace, you will not hear any complaints from me whatsoever. Very hype, very hype. Wow. All right. Yep. So let's come into pack number 5. I was just like, what if this was just a red back to back? Bakersville, Vega Force 1, Jinbei, Stary, Egghead, Dracula Mihawk, Sanji, Caribou, Gecko Moria, More Pizza, Fisher Tiger, and Galaxy Wing. Coming into the last pack, of course, we're looking for some red-backed cards, and would you look at that, we have a green back instead. But yeah, as long as we get the Lucci leader, so we can start branching off into another leader, in case, you know, Smoker isn't working out, Smoker's falling off, whatever, or we just want to try something else, that we just want to have it in our back pocket. Usopp, Tonjit, Dogura and Magura, Iron Body, Adeline, Egghead, Hamburg. He possesses the most brilliant mind, Vegapunk. We got 3 of the leaders, not the one that we want. Another Sengoku, very nice, and Ain. Okay, so we, yo, I completely forgot about the Dawn, but let's not sleep on the Warlord Dawn. That is a beautiful looking Dawn right there. Yeah, not a whole lot of hits, but we got a hit that really matters. This is going to be really expensive. We could either trade it off to someone wanting to play yellow. I do know one of my buddies from back home is probably wanting to trade into this. Otherwise, we could maybe use this in an off meta, but this is a crazy card. So this is going to be the list for this week. We did make a few changes from the last time that we played Smoker. Of course, we did cut the 5 cost double attack Smoker as we were talking about in that episode. We really just wanted to get done with that bounty and then call it there for that. So he is officially benched. We've got some more of the more typical cards that we would see in here, like the Sabo made his way back in, Kaido. Surprisingly, I did cut Navy HQ. I was trying to just do some, honestly, just mental gymnastics, trying to like justify its spot in the list, but I think that it's just better to run the 4 Ice Ages instead of 3-2 with the Navy HQ. At least for me, I don't really struggle with the Doflamingo matchup, which is where I was putting a lot of emphasis on, especially since the -1, or play stage, -1 from effect, Brook, and Smoker effect, or I guess you would do Smoker effect and then Brook, would KO a 4, but I just don't think I need to be any stronger in that matchup than I already am. I feel like that's just kind of a win more. The matchup that I'm struggling more with is Shanks, and Ice Age is a lot better into Shanks. Speaking of, that's why we have the 2 Kaido in here, and then we are going down on Jack a little bit. So that's the reason why we have the list configured like this. And let's just address the elephant in the room. We do have 3 alt art upgrades, so where are we going to use them? We're going to upgrade this Kobe to another, this one's a participant, this one was a finalist. I did not win them, by the way, nor did I participate in these, but yeah, I did get my hands on them for like a decent price. I know they're going up quite a bit right now. And then the other 2 are going to be the T-Bone. So now we've at least got 1 alt art of each of the 2Ks. And I know it makes a lot more sense to just go for like Rebecca or Gecko Moria for our alt art upgrades, or like this Brook, since we can use them in a lot of other decks, whereas Kobe, T-Bone, we're really just going to run these in a Navy-centric strategy. The biggest thing about that is just my personal budget and trying to get my hands on those cards. I don't have like a huge extensive list of alt arts to be dumping into the series, so yeah, I'm currently working with what I got. If I get my hands on like more Moria alts, Ice Age alts, we can use the upgrades there, but for now we are going to go up with the 2 T-Bones. I love this card, and I think T-Bone is honestly like really underrated as a Marine. I know he had his whole thing like about a year ago at this point, but yeah, I love T-Bone. Personal favorite Marine, one of them at least, in the series. And then of course, how are we going to talk about aesthetics without talking about our Dawn? So I did change it up, so this is going to be 3 episodes in a row where we have different Dawn, but as I mentioned in, 2 episodes away now, we have like this red theme, oranges, tans, and so I wanted my Dawn to actually match it. So we've got like the Sakazuki Dawn, the Odin Dawn, Whitebeard, Crocodile, Luffy, Ace, we got Sabo, and the holographic, the textured Sakazuki Dawn. So this is what we're going to be rocking. I think aesthetically it's just going to blend a lot more, but yeah, without further ado, we'll see you in round 1. So before I wrap up this segment, I actually want to come back in and talk about like how much more we actually need to alt art before we can claim that Poneglyph bounty. So this is a hearty stack of alt arts that we already have, and for now, I say for now, Sengoku is the highest rarity of him. He does not have a full art yet, but he will get one once the judge stamp comes out. And that one is not just stamped, it is a full art, so we're gonna have to get our hands on those. And then the Tashigi is still the highest art for that. It'll probably get an SP like in a set or 2, that's my prediction. But in terms of what we still need to grab for alt arts, we got the 3 Moria, Kaido, Rebecca, Brook, the 1 copy of Borsalino here, Kuzan, Tashigi, Suru, and then the Ice Ages. So in terms of what it's going to cost me personally, this gets really expensive. These are getting expensive. This is like super expensive. But yeah, in terms of the series, we actually don't have too much more to go in terms of like finishing out a strategy with all full arts or alt arts. We're not specifically making it max rarity, just making that distinction now. It is just full art or alt art for whatever is available for our deck. But yeah, are we gonna count this smoker? Let me know in the comments below if we're gonna count this as an alt art, since technically the base art is the OP2 art. So this does make it an alt, but it's not a full art, or yeah. I mean, kind of. It is kind of full art-y, but let me know if we should count this towards our bounty or not. Alright, so coming into game 1, we are going to be versus Purple Yellow Pudding, and as we've mentioned, every time we face against this leader in this channel, we do not want to be going too deep into the end game versus this deck, since they are going to be spamming a whole lot of the yellow Big Mom top end. Our opponent is going to use leader effect here to reveal Newgate and Pudding, then I'm going to play the Flampe to add the Newgate to hand, draw 1 card, and then I'm just going to pass the turn there. And my reasoning there was that I didn't want my opponent to advance that 1 card to hand to be able to ramp again, but then I forgot that our opponent does play the 6-cost Katakuri, being able to flip down that top life, so he is able to use leader effect again to ramp another Dawn. So definitely a little bit of pilot error here, and we're going to see that's just going to be a theme during this first game, but then after that we're going to lock in. So we're going to come back to the game and we're going to see that I'm going to swing 6 into the leader minus onto the Katakuri because I do have the Rebecca into the Brook to be able to KO the Katakuri. So yeah, we're just going to try and win board here. I think that's how we're going to play this early game, just trying to win board, and as soon as we get to the late game we're going to try and remove those big game threats. So our opponent does drop the first 10 drop Mom, but we still have the Kuzan on our side of the board. He was not able to remove it, so we're going to start with a 7k swing, use leader effect onto the Lin Lin, and then use the 7k swing into life with the -4 from Kuzan, Ice Age, and then we are going to Brook and then KO that Big Mom. So we're still keeping pace with the few bodies that we have on board, which is going to be really good coming into the next turn. Unfortunately for our opponent, the pudding swing here is not going to be able to activate leader effect since he does have one of his life face up, but he is going to Yamato, and now we have a collective 5 life, so he is able to KO the Kuzan. So that is a good amount of KO or cost reduction off of my field, but I do have the Ice Age and the Tashigi. So pairing that with leader effect is going to KO the 9-drop Yamato. And since I have a whole lot of cost reduction and a lot of cost-based removal in my hand with the Brook on field, I am pretty comfortable just swinging out with my board here, trying to get a little bit of the life since he is going to be healing with a lot of his boss monsters. And then I do see my opponent is going to be attaching some Dawn to his characters and swinging, so I'm a little bit puzzled by that initially.
6 left. But, Katakuri doesn't do anything. Balin? What other 6 costs am I forgetting?
So that's the other bit of pilot error that I was talking about earlier, where I just forgot that he added the Ragnarok to my hand, so he is going to be able to KO my board. The Brook did go down, and that means we do need to find another way to KO bodies, but since he doesn't have a board on his side of the field, that means we don't really have a rush to try and get some cost-based removal on the board. So when we play the Moria, we're going to go very value-based. We're going to go into Kuzan, into Brand New. Brand New is going to add us a card, and then Kuzan's going to let us draw, and on top of that, it's going to be a walking Ice Age, so that's going to be really good, especially because we are going to be seeing a 10 cost Lin Lin come down, so that's going to be very helpful in terms of trying to lower the cost there. But fortunately for me, I do see an avenue to game. I don't see a whole lot of blockers on his side of the field, and he only has 1 life left, so I'm just going to be swinging with my bodies, and that's going to be GG. Coming into round 2, it's going to be versus Green Yellow Yamato, and I swear that I face DJ pretty much every episode, so you're going to be very familiar with this Yamato playmat by the end of the series. I am going to counter out of this first swing, the 6th swing here, because one, it's just I can give a 2k for it, and as well, I do have the Borsalino in my hand, so as soon as I play that, I'm going to basically push my leader up to a 6k, since he's only going to have 1 body at a time being able to swing if I remove the rest of his bodies, so I'm going to keep his leader effect offline for a lot of the game. So here I give him the block Tua, and then I'm just good to go. Now I'm going to swing that Brand New into that Momonosuke. Just really good that we're able to establish some lower bodies to be able to swing into that Momonosuke. And then I am going to establish that Tashigi to build board, as well as remove some of his own. I'm going to remove the Mihawk and then swing with the Borsalino. Now let's talk about this. So in this specific scenario, I am really ahead of life, so even if he does give me a double attack into my life, I do not mind that, since I'm going to be advancing cards to my hand and not really going to be losing the life war there. And then in general, if you are really ahead on tempo, or if you're just not anticipating a whole lot of attacks coming into your turn, it is perfectly fine to be swinging with blockers, especially like if you're playing the blue Dofi strategy and you have extra boa blockers and you don't think you're going to need to block with all of them, then it is totally okay to like swing in with one of those blockers and just get some offensive value that way. The double attack does come down, and again, I do want to advance some cards from my life to my hand, so I don't mind taking this double attack here. And our opponent isn't going to be really running a whole lot of hand disruption, so even if I do go up to really large hand, I don't exactly mind. And our opponent is going to be in Trigger City. He does activate 2 triggers at this point. The first one was the Onami to be able to KO my Tashigi, and then the second one being the 5 cost Nami, trashing the Onami to KO one of my other characters. But again, as long as we are winning on board, then we're going to be in a good spot to win the game, so I am just going to use the Tashigi to be able to remove the Nico Robin on board, and he does play the Hody Jones here. Our opponent is in a really tough scenario right here, since if he doesn't clear my board, then I'm going to have a whole lot of bodies to go through his life. But then again, he doesn't have enough board presence to be able to go through all of my life, so he is going to swing into life, but once it comes back to me, I am just going to be pushing for game here. I'm just going to be spamming the 7s, demanding 2 cards each time I swing, so we'll start 7 with the Kuzan, then 7 with the Tashigi, and as soon as he takes that last life card, I'm going to go all in with the Mori, and that's GG. Coming into round 3, it is going to be versus John, one of my typical streak enders, and he is playing Dofi tonight. As soon as I see Sengoku and a Ice Age in hand versus Dofi, I am just going to be pitching that Ice Age since he's not going to be playing a whole lot of top end bodies, so we really don't need all that extra cost reduction. And so that's going to be my first line of play. I am going to play the 3-cost Brook here, opting not to KO the Buggy, and my thought process behind that was I wanted to have a 1-drop on my opponent's side of the field that I can use to put some more offensive pressure using my my leader effect. So that was definitely the wrong call because I forgot that 4-cost Law was an option, and as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely should have KO'd that just so my opponent has a lot less flexibility going into his turn. And then on my turn, I am going to play the 5-cost Tashigi, being able to remove the 4-cost Law. So that's 1 out of rotation. Of course, if he does play a Gekomori, he can always get it back to hand. And if he has 2 Laws, then he can always just cycle the same Law over and over again. So that is just 1 off the field for now, and of course he does have the Gecko Moria being able to add that Law back to hand. And of course once it comes back to my turn, I'm just going to try and win on board, so I'm going to try and commit as many swings as I can into the Moria here. I'm going to start with the Tashigi, he's going to give me a 2k, I'm going to swing into it again with the leader, and he's going to give me another 2k, and I do establish the Kuzan here. I've been really liking Kuzan as of late, especially because he's basically a walking Ice Age, especially if we are able to protect him. And on top of that, he does draw us a card, so he's going to be giving us a whole lot of value. Previously, whenever I saw one, it was just like a Sengoku target, but especially now, I think that there's just a whole lot of value from that Kuzan. And our opponent is going to walk away with a really nice board on his side of the field, especially because he was able to use the Law to bounce back one of his Peronas back to hand, so he's got resources. And as well, he did remove the Kuzan off of my board, but as thick of a board as he's going to get on his turn, I'm just going to establish a pretty wide board on my turn using the Gecko Moria, and of course I did get that 2k off of the brand new. And I do play the Brook here, not even to get any sort of removal, but just to have it as another option. So basically it functions as a second blocker because it's going to be a card that requires a response, and he wants to be able to swing into that Brook. So there you go, he swings the Law into the Brook, and that's basically just going to act as a blocker. You know, otherwise it comes back to my turn, and as soon as I see some cost-based or cost reduction, I'm just going to be using that Brook to be able to KO a lot of his bodies. And that's what I really love about this deck, the fact that it feels so fluid. We're able to use Gecko Mori to establish an actual blocker in the Rebecca, but then some minor threats like the Brook, which kind of becomes a blocker, and if it doesn't actually become a blocker, then it becomes a huge threat coming back to my turn. Our opponent is down to the last 3 cards in his hand, so we are just going to be committing a whole lot of swings into his board. I do clear the Boa blocker as well as one of the other bodies on his side of the field, so we're making some good progress in terms of that. And then I do use leader effect plus the Rebecca into Kobe to KO one of his 4 costs, and then Tashigi to remove another 4 cost. So in one turn, I was able to remove 4 bodies, each that were cost 4, so that was going to be huge for me. It doesn't really matter that he's really ahead on the life total, but I am picking up a whole lot of steam on board. And of course we are versus Dofi, so he's just going to pick up steam right again, and he's going to establish a whole lot of bodies, especially using that Jinbei to get out the Boa, and then using leader effect to get out another body. Life total is down to 4-1, but as long as I'm winning on board, I feel like I do have this game, so I just gotta whittle down his board enough to where either I'm going to have a whole lot of counter in hand, so even if he does swing out with his whole board, I'll still live, or just make sure that he doesn't have a whole lot of things left to swing with. So I am going to play the Moria into Rebecca brand new. Brand new is going to grab a 2k there in the Shigi. I know that was a little bit of glare there. And then Rebecca is going to grab the T-Bone, and then I do play another brand new to grab another 2k. So we have 4 2Ks in my hand. I have one already in my hand. So you'll see that I have 1 Dawn standing, and you're probably thinking, why do I have 1 Dawn left? And the answer to that is because I had a Sengoku in hand, so if I didn't draw well off of the brand new, my plan was to use the Sengoku to be able to trash whatever non-counter Navy card that I got, as well as I think I had like another Ice Age in hand to be able to draw into hopefully a little bit more counter. But of course I did get a whole lot of counter in those plays, so I am able to make it back to my turn, clear the rest of his life, go for game with the Moria, and that is going to be GG's. Coming into round 4, it's going to be versus Sean, and he is going to be piloting the RP Luffy tonight, and I am really excited to see what I can do in this time around because he did knock us out last time we played against him. I of course didn't know this at the time, but the pair down for this round did end up losing, so we are actually going to be fighting for first and second. I do have a little bit of a slower start this time around. I'm going to start by swinging 7 into our opponent's leader. He's going to give me the 2k, and I'm going to play the brand new, finding the Ice Age. That Ice Age is going to be huge for us, especially considering our opponent is going to be playing a whole lot of top end as soon as they get get to their later turns, are going to be playing stuff like the 7-cost Kid, the 10-drop Shank, stuff of that nature. So as long as we find stuff like that, the Ice Age, the Kuzans, the Tashigis, we should be good as soon as we get into the late game. And as soon as it gets to our opponent's turn, he is going to establish the 7-cost Kid, boosting his leader up to a 7k for the turn until the end of my turn. So he's going to be very defensive coming into that turn. So as long as we get rid of that Kid, I'm going to feel pretty good, and we are going to fire off the Ice Age, and then we are going to play the Kobe, trashing, I believe, a Jack, to be able to KO the 7-cost, and we're just not going to be able to swing into that leader, which is fine, but we do establish the Kuzan, so again, we have another Ice Age on legs. And of course, our opponent is going to be swinging in with that 10-cost Rush Shank, so we are going to have to deal with that somehow. I'm going to start with the 4-cost Kuzan swinging in just to get an empty swing for some cost reduction. I'm going to play the Kaido to be able to trash that Shank. I'm going to trash a brand new, he's going to trash a Nami, so we are going to work the hand a little bit, but more importantly, we're going to be managing the board and managing a lot of his resources. So as long as we can do that, we'll find a turn eventually, hopefully, where we're going to have a lot of stuff established, so we're going to be able to go for game. The 9-cost Rush Luffy is going to eat up my last life, so that's going to put me in a position where I have to go for game during this turn. So I am going to swing 8k into a 6k leader, try and bait out that Gum Gum Giant. So there is the Giant, he's going to trash the Rayleigh, so I'm going to be able to now walk in with a little bit easier time math-wise. I'm going to start with that Kaido, and he is going to counter out of it. So my last hope here is just to go 6 with the Kuzan, hope that hits, and then just pray that the Kobe goes through with 7. He is going to activate a trigger, but that's not going to matter, and that's GG.
Yeah, no, we're out of old winter back.
Start with this.
I'm like, April needs to come around and do winter back.
Kaku. Looking for Alt Moria here.
Moria.
It's the only thing I really need out of here.
Oh.
Nope.
Can I look at those?
Yeah, sure. And then our winner card for placing first.
Is that meat or
Kamazo.
Nice.
So we end the day at 4-0, pushing our overall record to 55-26, and yes, we finally hit double our wins compared to our losses, so we finally made it. We walked away with our first win of the series with our main deck Smoker, and I really feel like I was playing at some of my best here. I just stuck to my game plan of winning on board, gaining advantage from there, and I think it was really starting to pay off, and I really feel like I'm starting to really click with the deck. If the OP10 results from the East are a good indicator for the upcoming format, the meta shouldn't change all too much, barring the ban list of course, so hopefully we're going to be in a good spot for the Peoria Regional coming up, and that's going to be set 10 format. One final note before I close out, one of the Cypher Bounties was cracked from the last episode, so congrats to this commenter for correctly guessing it. There's still one more unsolved bounty, so leave your guesses down below if you think you got it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the content, drop a like and sub to the channel. The more subscribers we get, the closer we inch to the big sub bounty. And speaking of bounties, don't forget to leave a comment suggesting your new bounty. New waves of bounties drop every 5 episodes. And while you're down there, let me know your thoughts on today's episode. Until next time, drink your water, pass out love, hugs, kisses, mwah.